let's talk about first. The reason we're a business building superpower, first and foremost and most, is because of the good that we do. First and foremost, the good that we do in the marketplace. I went into home after home after home and after home. And while that was a lot of work and a lot of nights and a lot of weekends building our company, but the one thing that startled me is how dramatic the need has been. You know, and years ago it occurred to me, you go to what do they call the family doctor? Your primary care physician, they call them nowadays, right? It oversees the health. And they kind of have a wide knowledge of a lot of different things. But then when it's targeted, you know, as the doctor was looking at the results of a blood test of mine, he goes, the liver's elevated. Your liver's stressing out, which means something's going on. And so they did then, he got a tech specialist that does an ultrasound. And this person looked and said, you have a gallbladder full of rocks. And it looks like maybe one's gone into this duct and we need to get this stuff out. Well, then that turned over to a surgeon and turned to another specialist that is good at getting a stone out of a duct. And then the surgeon, of course, removes it. But then I got an infection, right? And now you get an infectious disease doc. And they know bacteria and all this stuff and what to treat and what to look for. Then I went to a CAT scan. And now you have this specialist radiologists that read these things, you know, and it's just, first, praise God for medicine and the inspiration our Father in Heaven's given mankind to improve themselves, because I would have been literally doomed without it. But I think of all of that, all of those resources, all of that knowledge, all of that expertise, all of that technology that stood ready, the blessings, of course, being in a nation like ours, right, that stood ready to help me, right, and help our family. And you look out at the world, and the majority of people in our two nations, in the U.S. and Canada, and there's no one there. Where are the general practitioners? When you're sick financially, who are you going to? When you don't have a lot of money, if you have millions of dollars, then I might be able to suggest you aren't that sick. But if you have millions of dollars, I mean, all you got to do is, you know, mention it to someone with one of the prominent companies, and they'll be all over you. But when you're struggling and you're in debt and you don't have much in the way of savings, and with some help and some organization and some inspiration, you decide, well, I can scrape together a couple $100 or $200-300, and sometimes it's less than that, right? And I can get started. You know, I've told the story again and again how Cindy and I got started, and we figured, you know, we could put $25 out a month to start, and that bought a little term insurance policy and a little tiny savings plan. But it began for us then. And we started building a habit of saving money. It was a little amount, but the amount wasn't important. It was the habit. And as I started going out into homes, the most obvious thing in the world was how much people needed this help. And it wasn't about me. It was about them. And I wasn't calculating my commissions and rubbing my hands together and say, I'm going to get rich. Now, I aspired to great things for our family, but it wasn't about that. I was in the home. I was a guest in the most important place in the world, a home where a family is growing. And I always considered it a privilege, and still do, and always will. And I'd sit across and we'd talk, and we'd think about these things together, and I'd ask them questions, and they'd start thinking about things sometimes seriously for the first time in their lives. And then I'd gather information so I could do homework. And I loved coming back, showing them what could happen. And overwhelmingly, in the great majority of circumstances, they couldn't save enough to reach the goals that they had set, but they could start though, just like I had, Cindy and I had. And we start building that habit so that when we started making more money, we kept feeding the habit. And so I thought, that's the kind of company we need. We need to be an army of family practitioners, of primary care doctors, only from a financial standpoint. And that we had specialists. We had money managers running mutual funds, and we had insurance companies designing, term and IUL and VUL insurance products that were the best the industry had seen in its hundreds of years of history. Only nobody was taking that stuff out to these people, and I got excited about what we were and what we could become. And I'm spending the time on this very first point to you because I know there are too many of you within the sound of my voice and too many leaders that don't see it enough that way. Don't see it as the privilege that it is. Don't see it for the power and importance that it has in people's lives. As we protect them and we start them saving, and we start them saving in wise ways and tax-advantaged ways and conservative ways that allow them to preserve what they've got, even when times are tough. I want to mention a fact here. It's just interesting. We have 50 states in the United States, and I can't speak for Canada. I don't know exactly what the circumstances are in your provinces, but there are only 4 states in the United States of the 50 that require some kind of financial education in high school. Now, we know most of them wouldn't pay attention, but at least you get a chance to start hearing it. Only 4 states. One of those critical things in life. And by the way, I tell you, if you lose your health, you sure aren't worrying about your money at that standpoint, except as a relief that your family is going to be well provided for, right? But it's amazing to me that something as critical as this, I thought about that year they pounded on me in my sophomore year in high school about geometry, and I walked out of that class the last day of that second semester, and all I remember is that shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. How much more benefit would it have been to have pounded on me for 2 semesters about what I needed to do in order to become financially secure in this lifetime? And that the sooner I got started, the easier it was going to be. But we don't do it. And you think about most of you as parents, how good a job are you doing that with your own children? Shoot, how good a job are you doing? And then how good a job are you doing passing that on to your children? Now, I stand convicted of the same thing. That's why I mention it. I wouldn't be on you. I'm on myself. But the reality is, we're it. For a lot of the middle class and the world out there, if we don't do it, it's not going to get done. That's the prominent reason we're powerful. It's the prominent reason you need to become good at this. And need to get where you are a competent family practitioner. Because you think about it, where do people go to get financial help? Their bank? Are you kidding me? They'll put you in a CD at 1% or 0.75%, or some joke like that. A brokerage firm, a Fidelity, a Schwab, a Morgan Stanley, when you don't have hardly any money. You're going to go to the Human Resources Department, HR, at where you work. That's the blind leading the blind. You're going to go to an insurance company? How do you do that? How does a general person do that? Do you go to your broke brother-in-law for advice? It's just crazy. How little real help there is out there. But one of the realities, this isn't rocket science. This isn't some amazingly complex thing where you got to be some super nerd and speak logarithms and sit there with some amazing calculator and work this stuff out. You know, this is, you spend $1, what do you get for it? You know, where are there competent people who know what they're doing and managing money and will take small amounts, you know, and have pretty good track records? Doesn't guarantee the future, but they've already proven they know their stuff. You know, if I just brought a guy into a baseball team that I owned and he had 40 home runs and stole 40 bases and was a Golden Glove outfielder, I got a pretty good feeling about what the next few years are going to look like. But what's the difference between term and IUL, and what are the variations in IUL, and what's a variable universal life policy, you know, and all of this stuff. It's just, you know, when we talk about a class, if you had one class for 2 semesters that just taught about what we do, you'd get it all. I don't mean just all the financial stuff. I think you'd get the system too. Now you got to build your confidence, and you got to work on your intensity and your desire and your focus. But the reality is, there's not this huge body of information that you've got like in medicine. You know, I mean, think about it. You know, you got to have a college degree, then you got 4 years of medical school, 4 rigorous years, and then you got to have a year of an internship and 2 years of a residency. And so you literally have been through 11 years of education, and you become a doctor if you pass the exam, you know, the test. That's crazy, but we don't have that. And you know what? And you ought to. I bet you most of you need to apply yourself more. Study your industry. Know your stuff. Become a reasonable expert in our basic things. And great things can happen in your life because of it. And just as important to me, great things can happen in other people's lives because of it. I love the fact that we do a financial needs analysis. I mean, people need to go from A, where they are, to B, where they want to go, where they want and who they want to become financially. And we help them say, okay, you're here. Let's define it. Here's what you have. Here's what you'd like to, after our talking about it, here are these goals you'd like to have for your children, for you and your spouse. Here's what you got to do every month, and at this rate of return, and in this kind of tax situation, in order to get there. And as you look at this, and I mean, my favorite part of the presentation in the first one was gathering that information. I connected with them. We gained a little bit of their confidence and trust, and we gathered that information. And they started getting excited about looking at what it was going to say, and then coming back, recommitting them, and then showing them what that needs analysis said, and then showing them how to get started on that path to get them to the promised land financially. You can tell by the way I'm talking about it, I never got tired of it. I got physically tired, but I never got emotionally tired. And physically tired was easy. I once got some sleep. And it's interesting, you might not think where does this phrase come from? But I just put up the words recruit from the heart. See, a lot of you recruit for the wrong reasons. I heard one leader call it stupid recruiting. You recruit for recognition. You recruit for a place on a leader's bulletin. You recruit to get an award at an event. You recruit to get an award at the convention. So you can be all proud of yourself. And I don't recruit people for that reason. I recruit from the heart. I challenge all of you to recruit from the heart. I recruit because we have a great work to do. I recruit because we need to help people. And we need to help more people faster. That's why you should be here. That's the greatest thing about our company. It's why we built the dang thing. It's why we spent all those hours and days and weeks and months and years doing this. Not so you just make some money and show off. It's so we could change lives. And so I recruited people to this stuff I just talked to you about. I wanted to want it because of this. I mean, I made my first 20, 30 sales in that first couple of months, and I was getting checks, and I was thrilled to get them. I mean, don't get me wrong, of course. We were poor. I was excited in a new marriage to be prospering. But I wasn't doing that, like calculating it in my head. I know people that go in and calculate it before they go. I just think you're going to come at it wrong then. I was there for them. When I'm recruiting somebody, they got that I'm there for them, and that too with this opportunity, but also that I wanted them to help us do this. I wouldn't be here right now if it weren't for the medical profession and its advances and its science and the special antibiotic that killed the bug that was growing in me. And I'm grateful for it. You don't go through that kind of experience without stopping and taking a look at the things that mean the most to you and thinking about what it means. And that's true for me in this company that we built. That's why I wanted to talk to you about this stuff today. If you're not in it for the right reasons, even if you make it, which you probably won't, you're not going to do the good that you should do. You're not going to make the difference that you're in a position to make. But let's go ahead. Let's add to this market need what we have done as a company in creating products and services. For those of you who can't see the slide, we have a bunch of logos up here. Nationwide's logo, Voya's logo, PacLife's logo, of course Transamerica, Prudential, American Funds, our Summit, our top individual money management company, and so we take a look at these things, and let's look at what we do, which gives us such power in the marketplace. I'm not here to give you a product presentation by any stretch, but I do want to talk about an overview. And first, let's talk about something that we underrate. And if you're out there listening to this and you aren't doing some version of this for the market, for the consumer, for every family you come into contact with, shame on you. But the first thing is really, this is on the service category, a financial needs analysis, where you help a family set goals and you help them develop a plan to reach them. The two things that people don't have overwhelmingly in the marketplace is clearly defined goals, and they certainly haven't developed a plan to reach them. There's incredible power in this. Either direction, there's incredible power if you don't have it, and that power leads you to all kinds of financial struggles, and ultimately it ends up usually in poverty. Whereas if you do it, all kinds of good things happen, and you can build wealth. The needs analysis changes everything. Sitting down with somebody with goals and to develop goals and a plan to make those goals a reality is one of the most wonderful things you can do for somebody, either helping them develop their business or helping them develop a real direction economically in their lives. When we develop that plan, we have a fully diversified product portfolio. Certainly as far as our marketplace goes, we have what our marketplace needs for protecting the family in a number of different ways and saving money and in providing security in accumulating that money, tax advantages, these kinds of things, our insurance products and the full diversity there, but also in diversity in terms of companies and the different kind of nuances to products that these companies represent to fit different situations. for the consumer. Most of our clients' needs are pretty straightforward. They need to start saving money in some place decent and safe, and they need to protect it tax-wise, and they need to protect their family in case of a disaster, right? When you take the needs analysis, our diversification, the insurance products, and tie to it our world-class broker-dealer, where we have cutting-edge wealth management platform, our money management products, our mutual funds, our variable annuities. We have these things to take to the consumer, most of whom we sit down and talk about this stuff, they're in the dark about it. They know very little about it. And most of them are pleasantly surprised with, their access and how much it can bless them, what good it can do for them financially. I love this stuff. And so you take the need and you take what we have to meet the need, and we have an extraordinary thing, but understand the market need and the products have been around a long time. I use this analogy for decades probably, that if you have an epidemic and people are dropping dead from it, and you come up with a cure, but you don't get the cure to the people who are sick, that's the same as having no cure. And so we can have the need. People are really hurting from where they are financially, and they really need this kind of analysis done and homework done, and they need these products explained, and they need recommendations, and answers. And if we don't get out there to them, it's the same as there not being a solution.